This episode of the Old Boy Podcast with Shad Feild is one for the books. It is, he has lived through some pretty amazing things. An airplane crash where he was the pilot with 5 others on board. They all survived, but not without some pretty grueling lifelong injuries. But to hear Shad's attitude about it and talk about some of those dark times that came along with an accident of that nature and some of the things he went through in the recovery, but still to see his outlook on life right now, you know, how it's made him just so focused on family and centered around what he's doing, where he's going. It is a very inspirational podcast. It's one that really meant a lot to me, and I really appreciate him sharing his story, and I think you'll enjoy his story and his perseverance just as much as I did.
Man, do you hear that? Look at here. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to have a party. I'm talking good old barbecue.
Welcome back to the Old Boy Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and I'm excited to be joined myself today by Shad Feild. So we had Shad's brother Casey on a couple episodes ago. One of his recommendations was you should really talk to my brother. So Shad is an entrepreneur, a pilot, a rodeo vet, and just an all-around great guy with some pretty amazing stories and a real champion's mindset. Shad, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You betcha. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, man. So one of the things I want to talk about, kind of early on, and a little bit of background is, obviously your father, Lewis, was a, world champion, Hall of Famer in the rodeo industry. And that kind of led to you being a part of rodeo, as the oldest son. What was some of that like? Everything I've read about your dad and preparing to talk to you and Casey just seems like just a hardworking, determined, driven guy. And it seems like that's some of the work ethic and values that he instilled in y'all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, growing up with him as a dad was amazing. He was the most humble champion ever. To Casey and I and Mackley, he was never more than just dad. I mean, people would always be like, even like we'd go to school, and when I was in elementary school and even like middle school and junior high, a lot of our community knew what my dad had done and what he was doing. I mean, there were signs around town of him, and there was a lot of talk, and they would be like, well, first off, it was funny because they all thought we were rich. Everybody's like, oh, you guys are rich, man. Your dad's this and that. I'm like, dude. And I didn't know any better. I was just like, well, maybe we are, but it doesn't feel like it,
Is this what rich is?
But, yeah, this is what rich is, man. I don't know, but it was funny too because everybody was like, "Oh, you're gonna be a rodeo cowboy like your dad. You'll do what you're." And I thought I was. I grew up thinking for sure I'd ride bucking horses and I'd be a world champion. It just go like that. And it didn't for me. It did for Casey, but I kind of my deal was different. I started getting on bucking horses when I was I think I got on my first ones in 7th grade or something, and. I didn't hit puberty till I was a sophomore. I was a little tiny guy and had no business crawling on a bucking horse in 7th grade. And I don't even know. I'm not sure my dad was even around the first few I got on. I think I got on them at Ross Coleman's house, and they were just running horses under me. I didn't shoot. By the time I was freshman, sophomore, when I was finally starting to become a man and should be getting on them, I was so scared. I had been knocked out and had my leg broke and my foot broke, and it was just, yeah. So when Casey come along, they went about it a little bit differently, and I guess the proof's in the pudding.
Well, he did say that. He was like, well, after the way Shad started riding bucking horses, he's like, Dad didn't start me till 13, and it was really limited till I was 17. So I think he definitely learned his lesson there. And then that's interesting because, with Casey, and then we also had Rocker Steiner on a couple episodes back, and same thing with him. He's like, oh, when I decided to get into this, he's like, my dad, made me train for, several years before, even allowing me to compete, which, I mean, that has to be like just a slow hell because you're out there busting your butt. And you're like, boy, I'd really love to see where I stack up, but nope, just keep working. And, you'll get that chance. But I found that to be 2 really interesting parallels of, not starting kids too young just because It is a bunch. I mean, look at what you look at what you went through before, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, all of you, at least for me, so I've got 5 kids. I've really worked hard on making them competitive, making them want to win. They want to be the best. And so to teach them to be competitive and want it so bad and dream about it and have it be the center of what their focus is, and then not allow them to compete. I mean, when you do open the gate, it's like, bring it on. Let's go. Let me show you.
It's like that old cage. It's like that old cage dog seeing that grassy knoll for the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, it's funny because as, John Crimber in the PVR, he was a badass since the time he was 13 years old. But I believe it's a lot different in the bull riding and the bareback riding and even the saddle bronc riding because for one, I mean, like my boys, I've got my 17-year-old, he rides barebacks, and then my 13-year-old and my 11-year-old, they're bull riders, and they do really well for their age. But the difference is, in the bull riding, my kids started getting on calves, they started getting on steers, then they started getting on cows. I mean, it's pretty easy to pace them and match the stock up, where in the bareback riding, you can find the right horse, but even the right horse, I mean, you're still strapping your hand in there, and it's just a different sport altogether, really, as far as when you start the youth.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Like you said, being able to match up the stock with the kid and their age and their size, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Based off of that, you went another direction in rodeo, and that was roping, correct?
Yeah. I team roped a lot. I didn't do real good in high school. I was okay. My senior year, I started coming on, but up till that point, I hadn't roped a lot. All I'd want to do is ride bucking horses, and so I really didn't start team roping a lot till about my junior year. Senior year didn't do that great, and then my freshman year in college, I really clicked with my head horse, and I think I won 8 out of 10 college rodeos that season and went on to the college finals, won our region, and did pretty good. And in fact, after that season of college rodeo, my freshman year in college, I had decided to go on a mission for our church. And I rodeoed that summer on my permit and made the circuit finals. And then the circuit finals was in October, but I ended up leaving in September to go to Argentina for 2 years.
Wow. So you showed the finals to keep your commitment to that 2-year mission. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I went and did that. And then when I came home, I rodeoed off and on in college. And
real quick on the mission.
Yeah,
what was that experience like, Shad? Since you brought it up, in working for Traeger, I have several people that are part of the LDS church that I work with, and talked a little bit about their missions, but tell me a little bit about that and what you feel like you brought back from it. Because I mean, at that age, it seems like a very formidable time to go on a mission and kind of become a little more well-rounded and see how other folks live.
Yeah, absolutely. I was asked to serve in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in their South Mission, which is kind of the slums of Argentina, really. I mean, it's dirt roads and tin shacks, and the water, the running ditches are their sewage, and extremely poverty-stricken. I mean, it's very sad to see how the people live there, and to show up with a message of hope and of God, and because a lot of the people down there, even though there is a lot of religion, they're not very hopeful. There's not a lot to have faith for or to hope for, and to show up and bring a message of hope and love and Christianity, and to watch people change as they accept the message and their happiness it's really, like you said, those years are very forming for a young man, and at 19 years old, to be able to watch that happen and then be there to serve the people. I mean, we pay for our own missions. I didn't know this at the time, but my dad sold my truck while I was gone to pay for my missions. I thought he was just paying for it. I got home, there was no truck.
You're like, I had a vested interest in this thing. All right.
Yeah. But incredible. I mean, to put up the money, to set aside everything for me, and for me personally, making the circuit finals that year, my rodeo was my love and my dream, to push all that aside and just say, okay, Heavenly Father, I'm yours for 2 years. Let's get after it. I don't know if it was the service part of it that kept me humble or that changed me, but I really grew up during that time, and it affected me to this day, I believe. Some of the relationships I have and some of the things I learned on my mission, and yeah, it was incredible for me personally, for sure.
Well, that's amazing because I feel like, we've became such more of a me society, that, seeing that kind of sacrifice at someone at that age, especially with what you had going on, is really honorable. And to see what you got out of it and how it helped form into the man you are today, that's really powerful. How much did you miss the rodeo while you were over there in Argentina? Did it make you come back with a hunger to jump back
Oh
on?
yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. My mom would send me the old PSN Sports News, and I'd get one of those every few weeks in Argentina. And honestly, it probably did me worse than good because I mean, I'm trying to focus on the Lord's work and what I'm doing there, and I'm getting all these PSNs, so I'm keeping up on all that. And yeah, it was really, really challenging, that part of it. And when I went into the MTC, which is the Mission Training Center in Provo, my apartment was on the third floor and it was facing south. And I could see the arena lights where the college kids were practicing because I was in Provo for 7 weeks while I learned the language.
Uh-huh.
And holy cow, I think I'd been in about 3 weeks and I broke down. I said, man, I'd been holding it back and holding it back. And I had one of my teachers, he's like, what's up, man? What's going on? And I just lost it. I mean, I'm like, I'm going home. I can't do this shit, man. I'm not a missionary. This isn't for me, man. And he's like, hey, listen, get through one more week for me. You get through one more week for me and let's see how you feel. Got through a week and I never looked back, and once I was in country, I don't know, I got kind of immersed in the work and it was really, really good.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So when you get back, do you jump back right back on the circuit?
Yeah, so I got back, kind of funny story. I started roping right away and it didn't, even taking 2 years off, it's not like you're doing something else where you develop bad habits. Within a week, I felt like I was pretty close to back to where I was, maybe 2 weeks. But I decided I wanted to try riding bucking horses again. And my dad had this old Clydesdale bucking horse that I don't even know if you'd consider it bucking. And I got on him and nodded my head, got my hand in the rig, and I rode saddle bronc a little bit in high school, but I ran my hand in the rig and went to nod. I nodded and the sucker came out, jumped up one time and flipped over and landed on his side and broke 4 toes. And I was like, gosh, damn, man, I don't think this is for me. So I hung her up right there and I never tried her again, but I did continue to team rope. Ended up getting married and had a business and it kind of took off. So I didn't team rope as much, but I'd always I'd go to Salinas, Cheyenne. I loved going to those rodeos. I'd like to go to Tucson in the winter and go down there and hang out a little bit. So I mostly Pendleton. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a really cool story from Pendleton. I love going to Pendleton. But I'd mostly go some circuit rodeos without even the goal of really making the circuit finals, just rodeo and kind of the ones that fit and the ones I like to go to.
Well, you got to tell us that Pendleton story. You can't tease it and then pull it back, oh boy.
You'll have to get on my social media to check out the video and the pictures. But I was healing for my brother-in-law, Caden Richard, one time up there, and he turned me a really good one. And I had this mare that she was awesome, but everything she did was just physical. I mean, she stopped hard, she slid hard, the corner was hard, and she came around the corner, her ass end slid out from under her, and I blacked out. I don't know, but I stayed hooked, roped the steer by 2 foot. She went down to her side, and I stayed on and dallied, and she stood up, and it's a really cool picture and video. You'll have to check it out.
We will definitely do that. That's pretty awesome.
Every year around September, that picture and video starts floating all around social media. I mean, it's one of the greatest pictures from Pendleton for sure.
That is so awesome. In talking about, kind of picking and choosing what events and what you wanted to do. I know when talking to Casey, he said, take all the world championships out of it. He's like, some of the best memories was riding the roads on the circuit with my brother and my dad. And then that's got to be just like a cool experience.
Yeah. It is. We were talking the other day, the gold buckles, they're awesome. And I've never won one. It's incredible. I wouldn't take that away from anybody. But if you ask Casey today, which I'm sure it sounds like you did, and anybody really, the gold buckles are great and what you strive for. But when you look back, I mean, do you tell me who won the bareback riding 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Hell, who won? You know.
Yeah.
But the memories, man, and the things that you create and the friendships. I remember we could be anywhere in this damn country, literally anywhere, and we were a phone call away from somebody to bring us a truck, a trailer, help us out. I mean, my dad, I think it's in general with the rodeo world and the community we live in, but even more with my dad. He was so loved, but so humble. I mean, he would help anybody, anytime, and everybody felt like he was his best friend. And the stories that I've heard since he's passed on, I'm like, in fact, a while back, I was just sitting there thinking, why the hell did he not tell me all these? These are the coolest, greatest stories ever. And it dawned on me, when you talked to Louie, it was always about you. It was never about him and what he had accomplished. And it was really cool.
That's so neat to have that kind of legacy and impact. You know, it's pretty awesome. When you're talking about the rodeo career, you also said you kind of started up a business and you know, and obviously you're a great entrepreneur, several businesses that we're going to talk about. But was that first oil field business that you had kind of slid into, or was that another one?
Yeah, that was that one. Yeah, I started dating my wife, and my father-in-law actually introduced me to a friend of his, and I went to work for him for about 6 months, and I was like, man, I could do this. You know, I don't. So I bought that truck and took the work that I had been kind of getting for the previous 6 months. And then it kind of took off from there. It's a small service company, but it's treated me really well.
That's amazing. So that was your first business. And then what did you end up, and then you started getting in the real estate game a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I bought some townhomes right off the bat. Well, a few years into my oil field stuff, I just wanted to be diversified. And so I started buying multifamily stuff and some rentals, but didn't put a lot of emphasis on that, focus on it. Still tried to just grow my oil field stuff. Really, I mean, I had some little crazy jobs here and there, little side companies, but mostly it was just the oil field stuff until I had my accident in the airplane. And then from that point forward, you know, not being able to go out and mentor guys and be in the field a whole lot with my physical, I've really shifted focus and started a few different things that are much different directions now.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit first. Where did the love for aviation come from?
Man, I don't know.
It seems like you love that, if not more than you did rodeo. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. But so you really don't know where it came from. Just this, you know, you got the bug one day and just got obsessed and fascinated with it.
Yeah, I remember when my brother-in-law Richard, he's also a big rodeo name. He was a senior in high school entering the pro rodeos, and we had to fly from a high school rodeo to a pro rodeo. And we took a little Cessna 210, and that would have been around probably 06, maybe 05, 06. And I fell in love with it. I was like, wow. And it was another 10 years though before I started working on my pilot's license and got it.
You know, and that's something that's interesting. I mean, the pilot's license isn't super easy to obtain. I happen to live right next to a small airport, but it's known for having one of the largest fly-ins in the country. And so they do a lot of pilot certification in and out of it. And so I've got to meet some people that train and this and that. And it's not just to get a license and be able to fly, I mean, there's a certain level of dedication for sure.
Yeah, and I flew a long time without one. When I was like, I even actually bought my first airplane before I had my license, and was flying quite a bit. And then finally, I was like, all right. And I went to a little school and really bared down on it and kind of knocked it out. And you know, every summer after that, I would pick something to work on, you know, whether it was aerobatics. I did a summer where I had probably 20 hours of aerobatics. The summer before, or I guess it'd be 2 summers before our accident, I spent 2 weeks in Alaska doing off-airport training. And I would attribute the survival of our plane accident to that training. But it just goes to show, I mean, my passion was aviation. I was reading books, watching shows. You know, I knew every airplane, what they should cost, what they cost to operate. You know, and it really, I don't know, I loved it. That kind of took over for rodeo for me. And I flew Casey around. I loved that. You know,
That's cool.
I didn't get to rodeo with those guys, but over the 4th and a few times throughout the year, I would spend quite a bit of time flying those guys around and really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's got to be fun. You still around it, but in a totally different role. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about that day. Gosh, it's been now what, 3 years, 4 years?
In August, it'll be 4 or 5. It was August of 20. So yeah, 4 years.
4 years.
This August. Yeah. So we had some friends come out. We'd been telling them how beautiful it was out here where we live and the mountains around us. And they came out, and that morning we decided, well, we were going to go to the lake and go boating or go on an airplane ride, or we were actually going to do both. So I said, well, why don't we go for the airplane ride first, since it usually gets kind of windy, and as it gets hotter later in the day, it'd be funner to go boating. Anyway, went down to my hangar. Funny thing is, they said that when we were getting ready, I was doing my pre-flight, and they said, hey, promise us that you won't crash us. Promise us. And this is all on video too. They were videoing the whole thing. And I said, I can't promise you that I won't crash us, but I promise you I'll take care of you. And that's all on video. Yeah, you can actually watch that. It's on YouTube.
I watched it, and we'll definitely make sure and put the link in the description, so you guys can go check it out. But yeah, the fact it was filmed, I was just like, oh my Lord, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was crazy. So we took off and we got up around Kings Peak, which is the highest point in Utah. It's like 13.8 or something like that. And we decided to come back, and we started shooting down the canyon towards home. And I'd pulled back the throttle because we were descending pretty quickly, and a big gust of wind had come up, and just a lot of wind, which was no big deal. I just went to ease the throttle in to get some power there. And when I did that, the throttle was completely loose. It just came apart. And the plane actually fell back to idle. And the throttle, you could just sit there and move it, and it wouldn't do anything. So at that point, I knew we had to make it across the lake. We were in a nasty, nasty area. I mean, literally, if we would have lost our engine 30 seconds prior, there was no living. It's the nastiest, steepest cliffs and thickest country you can imagine. So I knew we had to get across the lake. My initial thought was to go to the beach, but when we got closer to the beach, I kept on having an image in my head, like of nosing in, flipping over, and for some reason, the kids in the back seat were gonna die. It was weird, and so I just knew and when I got to the beach, there was people all over the beach. So I decided against that and tried to get up to the pavement, which I knew I wasn't probably going to make it. And sure enough, we came up a little short of the pavement and kind of piled it up in a sagebrush.
Well, it seemed like in the video too that it was like, I think a lot of people think when you crash, me being one of them, like, oh, I just kind of kept gradually, you know what I mean? Like gradually going until it nosed down. No, man, it felt like that thing went like bam.
Yeah, we stalled, and there was some contributing factors to that as well. But yeah, we ended up stalling over the ground about 80 feet.
So it's just a free fall from 80 feet, just damn.
Yeah. And when we landed, we all were knocked out except for the two boys in the back. When I came to, Gentry, my buddy, was hanging upside down out of the plane. The door had come open. His face was covered in blood. Like 6 teeth were gone. He was unconscious still. His legs looked like snakes. I mean, they were broken in 6 or 7 places. Come to find out, he broke his back at T12, the same place as me.
Wow.
He fractured his neck, had internal bleeding, had a fracture in his pelvis. He was really, really bad initially. His wife was behind him, and she had a small hairline fracture in her pelvis, I believe, and then she was knocked out as well, but she came to and was okay. And then my wife, she broke her arm, and it was mangled. It was bent completely in half and just hanging down.
Oh.
And she was knocked out as well. And then the two boys in the back were good.
Oh my gosh.
When I came to, I was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move from the waist down. I was paralyzed.
Oh.
So, but as soon as I came to, I reached down, I shut the fuel off. I was just scared to death that we were going to start on fire because him nor I could move.
Right.
And people had to come over top of us to get out. So I started directing people to get out as fast as you can. Everybody got out but me and Gentry, and then people started showing up. That's the crazy thing. There was a retired EMT, a highway patrolman, and a nurse in the campground less than a quarter mile from where we crashed.
Man, you talk about divine intervention. Holy
Not only
smokes.
that, there was ambulance training with 2 ambulances in the little tiny community of Altamont, Utah, which is, a little tiny. They were right there.
Wow.
Yeah, so the people were to us quick. The helicopter showed up and took Gentry, my buddy, and then me and my wife got in one ambulance, and the other ones got in the other ambulance. And they actually, because it was just training, they didn't have medication, so they had enough pain medication to get me almost to the paved road, and then I had another 45 minutes with no medication.
Oh my gosh, that had to be the most extreme pain you've ever experienced.
Well, initially I was in shock, and it was painful, but it wasn't. Right. Once they had taken the pain away with that medication and it came back, son of a buck, man. It was a rough ride. And they drove me and my wife to Roosevelt, which was about an hour. And then I was airlifted from there. It was funny too, because I don't really remember being in the hospital a whole lot before they put me on the helicopter. But when I was in the helicopter, the life flight, they have the big old bubble that comes out the side. And I was hanging my head. I was on some good drugs, right? And I had my cell phone and I was FaceTiming my kids. I'm like, hey, look. And I was holding it out the window and showing them. And the nurse, he's like, hey, you can't do that. And I don't know why I remember this, but I'm like, hey, dude, I'm a pilot. I got it, man. It's the worst. Yeah, it was pretty good. But, what's funny is that was always really funny to me. But come to find out, my boys, they thought I was going to die at that point. They didn't know that if I was okay, or they had no idea. So when I FaceTime them and I was laughing and I was joking, it was the biggest relief to them. They all just started crying, be like, oh, it's okay. Everything's all right, and
that actually, because I'm sure in their mind, they're just thinking, Dad's mangled. He's on this helicopter, like, you know what I mean? Like it's touch and go. And then you're all painkillered up. Just, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, exactly. They flew me to Provo where they did an emergency surgery, and they fused T11, 12, and L1 together. This was right in the middle of COVID. And so no visitors, man. I was in the hospital for a few weeks with 0 visitors. And at that point, they were telling me I'd never walk again. And I said, yeah, right. Watch me. I'll walk out of this hospital. And I did. And my sick ass, I was sitting there thinking, oh man, Special Olympics, like I'm going to be able to do this and that. Sick. Something's wrong with me, because I was seriously like borderline excited.
These para games, they'd never seen nothing like what I'm about to drop on.
Bring it on, man.
Proud sponsor of the show, Trollco Clothing. Love what the brand's about. It's all about supporting that blue-collar worker. You know them for their trademark shirt and hat, dirty hands, clean money. It's not just a slogan. It is a lifestyle. Go visit trollcoclothing.com and use my discount code, OldBoyPodcast, for 15% off.
I went home with a walker. I was on a walker for a little while. Well, I was in a wheelchair for a little bit, and then a walker, and then 4-arm crutches. And, I'd been home about 3 weeks, and the elk hunt was going on, and it was really weighing on me because, hunting, that's me, like everything outdoors. In fact, if you would have asked me what makes Shad Feild, I'd say I'll outwork anybody. I'm fast, I'm strong. I love to hike and hunt and snowboard and snowmobile. And so with the hunting thing, that's been a huge part of my life forever. And I was really sad. I thought that was over. And I actually ended up killing a bull off of my walker with my bow that year. And it was huge for me because it was like, all right,
That's yeah.
let me let me show you what I'm gonna do with this back, and that was a game changer for me.
But because you have two places there, right? You can either feel sorry for yourself and think about all the stuff you're going to miss out on, or man, I just got to adapt and learn how to live my life. And it was it kind of reminds me of a story of a guy that I worked with at Publix. I'm still good friends with him, but he gets diagnosed with bone cancer at 18. Ends up losing one leg, ends up losing enough of the muscle out of another leg that he can't walk, right? So at 18, 19 years old, he becomes wheelchair bound, and there's nothing he can do about it, right? And he's like, man, I spent a good 6 or 8 months feeling sorry for myself. And he goes, as savage as it sounds, I woke up one morning in my college dorm room and I said, you're going to do one or two things today. You're either going to kill yourself or you're going to learn how to deal and you're going to move on and live your life. And obviously he made the choice that drew him to, and he's lived an awesome life. One, actually, he started raising bird dogs, ends up getting the Bird Dog Association to give him an exemption so he can ride a four-wheeler to manage and run his dogs, right? In these competitions, becomes a 2-time world champion. You know what I mean? It's just getting your mindset to, even as limiting as you think it is, and even as against the wall as you think you are, finding some way to still get that normalcy back.
Oh man, absolutely. That's been, I mean, at the end of this, you'd say BS, but I wouldn't trade this trial for anything. I mean, I've had to learn how, before when I said, who is Shad? And I said all these physical attributes, that's not who I am. And I had to figure that out. What makes me is grit, is toughness, is integrity, is being a good dad and a good husband and a good friend and a good brother. Now, those are the things that make me because they're no longer determined by by outside sources. I can control all of that.
Yep.
But that's not been an easy process. I've struggled, man. When I got out of the hospital, I was in a diaper. I lost bowel and bladder function. I wore a diaper till this December. And I'll tell you some more about that, but
and think about that just as a man, something that we all assume we should be able to control, right? Bowel and bladder, but then having that taken away from you and just dealing with that from an emotional and mental health point of view had to be quite a hill to overcome.
Man, you have no idea. It's not even what you would think. It's not the shit in yourself. And my sphincter muscle that holds the pee in the bladder is completely wide open. So fluid my diaper basically acted as a bladder. Yeah. It just goes straight to there. And I had bladder infections all the time. My peckers stunk. Yeah. If I peed, I would have to scrub my hands. I use a catheter every time I pee. And still today, every 3 hours, I use a catheter. If I thought that I was going to be intimate with my wife, I would shower and scrub and it still was embarrassing, And then I did a podcast with Josie Young during the NFR last year, and I went the wrong way to get there, and I was wore out. My legs, by the end of the day, my legs don't work very good at all, and I get just about there, and I full on shit my pants. It's going down up my back and down my legs, and I thought, I can tell Josie I can't do this, and it's on live TV. Or I'll just show up and I say, look, man, I'm sitting in my own shit right now. This is tough, but life is tough. We all battle our own things and we all struggle. And I've learned some incredible things about myself, and not just about myself, but about others and community.
Oh, yes.
What it means to put your arm around somebody and say, hey man, I noticed you. You're doing really good. I've got stories where people wouldn't see me for 6 or 8 weeks, and they'd see me and say, holy cow, dude, I can't believe how good you're walking. Well, do you know that day I was considering being done because I'm in it every day. I don't think I'm getting any better. And, there was one point where I was driving down the road, and I had all my kids and my wife, and my business was still doing good. And I felt so lonely that it felt like I was suffocating. I'm sitting there holding my wife's hand, and I'm just like, just this darkness around me and this depression that it got really, really scary there for a while. I had to get on some medication, and I'm not too big. For a long time, I was like, I'm not doing the medication thing. I'm not doing that. That's not me. I don't need that. I just got to get my shit together. I got to wake up. I got to find something to be happy for. And,
That cowboy
once I
way.
got on the medication, exactly the cowboy way, and not you don't ask for help. And since then, I've learned, man, we all have to come together. We have to put our arms around each other. We gotta check on each other and make sure, because nobody knew when I was struggling. I put on that smile, and people were like, "Man, you're incredible. You're doing so good. Man, I can't believe how you're taking on life." When inside, I'm wanting to off myself, man.
Yeah.
I'm done. I actually had a really cool experience. I get choked up, but I have really bad neuropathy. My feet burn 24/7. It never goes away. And then at night, it gets unbearable sometimes, and I still don't have a handle on it. About 6 weeks ago, I was laying in bed, and I told my wife, I said, "This is hell. I can't do it anymore. I can't get away from it. I can't run away from it. I can't put them in ice. I can't. I can't live like this anymore." And I said, "I want to go away. I can't. I don't want it anymore." And I fell asleep, and I was kind of in between sleep and awake, and I had almost like a dream where I had committed suicide, and I was on the other side, and I was looking at my family, and they were miserable, man. My boys, they didn't want rodeo anymore. My wife was a wreck. Everybody, all my loved ones were around me, were just a mess. And I thought, this is hell, because I chose to be here. I chose to go away from all of them. And that's when I was like, I woke up, and I was like, man, this is heaven.
Yep.
I got my kid, my daughters right here, and everybody. I don't give a shit. Bring the pain on. I'll take 10 times more pain than this, and the lack of ability to do things, that doesn't bother me, because I've got heaven right here. I've got my kids, and I take them to the rodeos, and I'm teaching them, and my wife still gets to enjoy my company. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that, but she says she still loves me, and but for the most part, everybody's happy, and I'm still here. So
Well,
you know.
it's like that was just putting everything in perspective for you, right? Because you were looking at it out of this side, but then, having that moment and being able to look and see, oh my God, if I do go through this, look at all the misery and just carnage I'm leaving behind. Like that's, and sometimes those, they and it's, you got to believe in divine intervention for something like that to happen on that night when you're having those thoughts. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's
and
amazing.
selfish. As selfish as suicide is, there needs to be more awareness around it, because when you get in that spot,
Yeah.
it's not, you're so tunnel visioned, and it's so dark around you that you don't see truth. You don't see reality. You see a very self-centered part of your life. And if you want to continue that, when you are on the other side and you've committed suicide, you're still, this hurting you, because now you are in this hell that you've created. You chose that.
And there's
And
no
so
going
it's
back.
still selfish.
And there's
you're
no
still,
going back.
no. And I understand better, though. Like, I don't want to take that away from people and make them, because it's a hard deal. I have a much better understanding of what people go through in depression and suicide than I ever did before. And now I can speak on it. I can help others, because, man, before, when people would tell me they were struggling or the suicide, I was always very empathetic, but not like I am now.
Because you
Before, I
lived it.
don't get it. I don't, why you have everything? Why? How can you feel that way? Well, there's a lot more to it than that,
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, and we will here, public speaking. I know that's something that you've started doing more of, and golly, man, just you sharing your story. Just, I think there's something that I'm just really appreciate about this discussion, and that's just the honesty and the vulnerability. I feel like sometimes as men, like, especially, growing up the old boy or the cowboy way, it just, fucking rub some dirt on it, man, figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
that showing vulnerability and talking about those things, dude, that's more manly than rubbing fucking dirt on it. You know what I mean? And you know, I just appreciate you being like so forthcoming and just sharing everything. And I can only imagine in public and being able to deliver those kind of messages, public speaking wise. And I'm sure as you kind of scan that crowd and you're talking to people, you see some eyes and you just see some reactions of, I'm not the only one in this room that struggle with something like this. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, man. The response is incredible. I'll never stop doing it because literally almost every time I speak, I have at least a couple people say, man, I needed this tonight. This was for me tonight. And the thing about it for me is I have enough confidence in who I am and where I've been that I don't really give a shit. I'll tell everybody, hey, like I said, I'm on live TV. I just shit. I'm sitting in shit right now. It sucks, but you know what?
I'm going through it. We're gonna have a great interview. Let's go.
Well, and the thing about it is if I don't share about it, people don't. They see my social media or my family or who we are, and they think, oh, we got it all. You know, you don't struggle. You can't relate to me. No, we're all relatable, man. And I think when people can see that I'm okay to stand up there and say, hey, I need help. I'm struggling with this. This is kicking my ass. Then they'll be more willing to. And they'll say, well, if Shadows get up there and, you know, full of shit and stinky and talk about this and say, hey, I'm struggling, then maybe I'll say it too. I'll step out or you know how many people since I said I've been on medication and I've reached out for the help. Now they say, oh, all right, I'm going to give it a try. Well, man, they're tools. You know, if you're a mechanic and you have this badass engine and you get all the way down to the last part and you don't have the right tool, do you say, oh, fuck it, I'm done with this, you know, and throw it all away? No, you go get the tool you need and you go back to work. You know? And these tools that I'm using right now, the medication that I'm on a low dose and I don't plan on being on it forever. But hey, you know what? If I am on it forever, so what?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm good, man. I'm happy. My family, I didn't realize what I had gotten to be for them. I'm in pain 24/7. I wear this diaper. By the end of the day, I'm not a pleasant dad.
Yeah.
And now, we've changed that around. We're doing great.
And the ability to be able to recognize it, right, and just not stay in that whole circular just day after day after day, like realizing, you know what, I need some help, I'm gonna go get it, and then recognizing the difference that it made, and just being fine with it and wanting to share that with others. Like, I felt this drowning, and this is one of the tools I use to pull myself out. And once again, I think you describing it as a tool is the perfect analogy.
And truth be told, I don't want to mislead anybody and say, hey, I've got this beat, I conquered it, because I'm still in it, man. I'm still battling this. Yeah, I feel better on the medication, but when everybody's loading up, going to the rodeos, or they're over there roping, and I can't rope much anymore. I get sores on my ass. I fall out of the stirrups. I can't, my balance,
Yeah.
When everybody's going and doing, and I'm here, and it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and I'm done for the day. It's tough. It weighs on me. And so I'm still in it. And I want people to know that the battle, it doesn't end, but we find the right tools and get the right people around us. And, I've learned some great things. Exercise. When you're depressed, go work your ass off. Find someone to serve.
Yeah.
When you're down on yourself and you're pissed off and you're sad because of what you can't do or can do or your situation, go serve somebody else and tell me how you feel in an hour. Go find somebody that you can put their life in front of yours. And that's another thing, I'll never forget. I was at the gym one day and I was working out and I'd gone in every single day and there's this little Indian kid there. And every time I'd be like, hey man, what's up? And he'd be like, like mean. He's like a mean little guy. He would never really talk to me. and this one day I go up to him. I'm like, hey dude, I notice you. I see you at the gym every day and you're getting buff, man. You look good. I'm proud of you, dude. Well, he follows me around and he starts talking to me and he goes from machine to machine to machine and like just the next day I come in, he's like clear across the room, like, what's up, Shad? How you doing, man? Or hey, what's up? And it's like, and I see him talking to other people and he's smiling and dude, it took me 5 minutes to go out of my way and say, hey, I noticed you. And the ripple effect that has on people, now he's talking to other people and maybe he changed somebody else's life. And so that's the way I approach my public speaking. Yeah, I don't love to speak. I don't like to get up in front of people and talk. I'm not educated in public speaking, but I don't care if I can start a ripple effect or help other people understand what it feels like from a guy like me to have somebody come up and give me a hug and say, "Hey, I love you, man. I notice you. I'm here for you." I don't. That's another thing. It's kind of go in the same way as I don't need someone to come and say, "Hey, this is what you need to do. You need to go to work. You need to do this. You need to get up. You need to have a routine." No, I know all the bullshit.
Yeah, got that.
I need someone to say, "Hey, I really don't understand how you feel, but I want you to know that I'm here. And whatever I can do, or if it's just sit with you, if it's put my arm around you, I'm here for you." And that's been a lesson that I've learned. You know, as we run into people that are struggling, we don't always got to be that guy that tells them how to do it or how to get out of it or what to do. We just got to say, "Hey, man, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, and I'll be right here," because at the end of the day, you know, we talk about gold buckles and how we weigh the experiences over the gold buckles, right? We experience the things I've learned through my trials. At the end of the day, all of these things point back to one thing, and that is love. If we love each other, man, we'll be there for each other. If we love each other, we'll forgive each other. If we love each other, there's nothing to judge, because when you love somebody, even people you don't know, you try to love people, it's so much easier to look past their faults, because when we love somebody, we understand that their life situation and their life experiences weren't the same as mine. Right? I grew up in this community where all my neighbors watched out for me. I mean, I had religion. I had the greatest parents that gave me every opportunity. I had love shown to me. How can I ever judge somebody for something they're doing wrong when their life experiences are completely different than mine?
It's very true.
Right?
Very true.
And so at the end of the day, we just got to love more, man. I think if we'll do that, and that's where the greatest community in the entire world is cowboys. Our integrity, our who we are, our toughness. But one place we lack a lot of time is that love, because we're hard. We're tough, you know, we're cowboys. We got to love more.
Proud sponsor of the show, Welder Nation. Man, I will tell you what, if you are looking for apparel that is built for that trade, this is made for the 0.1 percenters. Those folks out there putting apparel to the test, working some of the most dangerous jobs in some of the most dangerous places. The last thing you can have is faulty gear, faulty apparel. Go check out weldernation.com. Feel free to use my discount code Old Boy Podcast for 15% off. He knows I love him. I don't have to say anything. That kind of, you know what I mean? Like that kind of competitor mentality. You're just, and it's funny you say that, because I always tell people, like, it's so easy to lose a little bit of faith in our community and our population these days, with just, like I said earlier, some of the me thought process and just the way people don't, you know, value law enforcement and things like that. And look, when you start having doubt on humanity, go to a rodeo. You know what I mean? Go to a rodeo and just talk to the spectators and watch the participants and watch the families all sitting there together, you know, sharing popcorn, rooting on the guys. You know what I mean? Like it's still, to me, like there's nothing more Americana than rodeo and rodeo people. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%.
And I wasn't raised in rodeo. I was around it enough to know that's just the kind of the quality of folks, you know, and it's just that upbringing and that little, and just the work ethic to not only get on there and ride for 8 seconds, but like everything that goes into it, the practice, oh shit, we just got done here, I won this. Next thing you know, 2 hours later, you're in the truck heading to the next one. You know what I mean? Just that grit, grind, and determination to be great. You know, and one of the things your brother Casey impressed me with was when he said, okay, when I qualified, every year that I would qualify for nationals, starting October 1st, I would just change my regiment to whatever it was going to be that 10 days of finals. So the 2 weeks I was in Vegas, I would start living my life October 1st based off that. If I was getting up at 8 o'clock, you know, Las Vegas time, I would get up at 8 o'clock Las Vegas. He's like, and I'm like, that's preparing for greatness. You know what I mean? Like that's not saying I'm going to let something grab me, but it's that kind of thought process and grit that I think makes cowboy and cowboy lifestyle just so amazing and so honest and earnest.
I agree. I mean, that's what one of the reasons why we ran off with the cowboy company, the cowboy hat company.
Yeah.
You know, to me, when you put a cowboy hat on, you don't have to have horses. You don't have to have cows. You don't have to be a cowboy. But that cowboy hat says, hey, I'm going to look you in the eye when I shake your hand. Hey, I'm going to have a firm handshake. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to have some integrity. You know, my dad said it best when he was introduced into the Hall of Fame, introduced into the Hall of Fame. His speech was like 2 minutes long, if that. And he said at the end, he said, I just want to be remembered as a cowboy. You know, he said, I want to be remembered as a fierce competitor inside the gate, but a quiet gentleman that's respectable outside the gate. That about says it all. That's a cowboy.
Sure does.
And you know, like you said, I wasn't raised around being a cowboy. That's one thing that people have to understand. You don't have to be raised as a cowboy, but being a cowboy, what being a cowboy means today is something that we all need to take hold of.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether you have cows, horses, or whatever. And that's why I like the cowboy hat deal so much, is because when we sell our cowboy hats, that means you're a cowboy.
Yeah.
Those values mean something to you.
Which, by the way, speaking of the cowboy hat company, I did tell Casey, you boys are up for a challenge. I wear about a size 8, but I'm gonna need to procure me one of those war bonnets, because I did a little look and I was like, oh man, these things are sharp. When I was talking to Casey, I was like, you think you can make a size 8? He's like, oh boy, when we get down there to Salt Lake, we can make sure we got you sized up. So yeah.
I know we can. We just did a hat for Beyonce that was an 8 1/4.
Oh my Lord. Beyonce, that's pretty badass. Little name drop there.
Well, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I mean, through a roundabout way.
Yep.
No, we did. But so we sponsored a girl that just started her career in music about a year ago, and we've kept her in hats and stuff. And she opened for Beyonce, and they did a song together. So this girl asked us to do some hats themed around what that song was.
Yeah.
I don't know if she even got the hat yet. I'm waiting to see a picture, but yeah.
That's cool. So I know there's 2 companies I wanted to kind of hit on that you're working. Well, first I want to just go back to the accident for a second, because you use some therapy that I've always been super curious about. I think the listeners will be curious about. And I only know it from just a few of my buddies that have used it to treat some shoulders and this and that. But you were obviously recovering from a lot more. Stem cells. Talk to me a little bit about the process. What did you notice in the stem cell therapy, good, bad, or indifferent? It's just something I've always been curious about, and kind of in getting ready to chat with you, I saw that you were going down and getting, therapy every, 3 to 4 months.
Yeah. So about 13 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and we were having hell with it here. We couldn't find anybody to treat it. No one was diagnosing it properly. They were trying all kinds of medications. Things were just getting bad. So we had heard about a place in Mexico, in Tijuana, that uses stem cells and treats Lyme disease. And we ended up going down there. The first trip we went down, we found the wrong clinic. We came home, found another one, went back, and we've been going there for 14 years. And I bet we've taken close to 100 people or better to that clinic.
Wow.
And the stem cells, they're incredible, man. I know they were working for me, because I would get extremely bad leg aches where, I'd have to get out of the car and walk every 45 minutes because these leg aches were just tremendous. And I could drive to Salt Lake 2.5 hours. I'd stop 2 or 3 times to get out and walk around, get to Tijuana, get the stem cells, come home, and for 3 months, I wouldn't get another leg ache. Now I don't get leg aches at all. I still deal with the nerve pain, but I believe they're incredible. The ones that we get in Mexico are very potent and work very well. We go to a clinic, it's called Bio Advanced Medical Center in Tijuana, and the doctor is Dr. Calzada. And like I said, we've taken at least 100 people there, and word of mouth, there's probably a couple hundred going there. And I've yet to hear somebody say that they didn't experience relief or have it really, really help them. And the thing that they're best at, that I've come to, personally, this is what I've noticed, is the autoimmune diseases. Man, if you have any kind of autoimmune deal going on, they are really, really able to help those out. Now, like joints and shoulders and things like that, it speeds up the process. Absolutely. I think you heal better, you heal stronger, faster. But I really think that people with different autoimmune diseases benefit the most from the stem cells and the therapies that they offer at this specific clinic.
That's great to know, because I feel like that's once again just like another just great tool that we don't think about here in the States, because they just want to keep pushing all this this pharmaceutical medicine on us more than actually treating the issue. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing that's cool about down there too, right from the beginning, the nurses are giving you kisses and, oh my God, baby, I love you so much. And it's like, you feel like you don't ever feel like a number. Like you go there, the doctor knows your name. He remembers you from last time you were there. He follows your charts. He says, hey, is this working? And the other thing that's cool too is right off the bat, they address the emotional. I mean, they say, how are you emotionally? How's your well-being? What, because if you can't fix that, they're probably not going to do a lot for your physical if your emotional is a mess.
Exactly. You got to be in the right mindset to get better.
Show me one place here in the States. I've never ran into a doctor that's like, tell me how you feel.
Yeah.
I want to know how you're emotionally.
They're on that 10-minute schedule, but you only get 7 minutes because they're running behind, and you know what I mean. Like, and it's what you just described to me as a relationship. What I feel like more of medicine in the U.S. is today is very transactional, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's bothering you. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get you this. Let's do that. And it's kind of done. Like nobody sits down and just, like you said, how are you doing? Is this working? Is it not working? How's the medicine making you feel? You know what I mean? Like all those things that would be proper healthcare, in my opinion.
Exactly. I mean, the medicine that they use down there, if it works, they use it. Yep. There's none of this shit. Oh, we're not going to use this one because, you have all these things going on right now. But if I give you this medicine in 30 years, you might get a hemorrhoid. We can't give you that. Come on, man. And that's all it is. The FDA, the way that they do things, the length of testing that goes on. You go to Mexico and they have something that works. They treat you with it. There's not all the BS. The other thing is you're not wondering all the time, is this pharmaceutical giving a kickback to my doctor? Is what's going on here? Do they get paid by how much they diagnose or give this medicine out? You just don't know. And down there, it's more transparent, and they give you what works and word of mouth. If it works, you're going to come back.
Yeah. And they want all that they can get. I mean, look at how much business you brought to this place. You know what I mean? Just from positive experiences.
Exactly. Yep.
The couple things before I let you go, because we have flown through this time and I knew we would. You were talking earlier, some of the struggle of, not being able to rodeo and this and that. What does it feel sweeter because of that? Seeing how when your kids have success rodeoing, that's got to be, you got to still feel like you're in the game while you're not in the game a bit, right?
Dude, again, it goes back to really what's important. And yeah, sure, it would have been cool to win a gold buckle for me, but right now, the process of taking my kids to that level, oh my gosh, dude. I mean, my 5th grader, he just won a saddle. He won the state championship for bull riding in 5th and under. My 13-year-old is in 7th grade, and he bucked off the short round. He drew the hardest bull in the short round and bucked off to win a state championship. Still ended up 2nd, his first year rodeoing this year. My junior in high school, he's half a point off first going into the state, and he played football all fall, so he only got half the rodeos, and he caught the kid in the spring. And I tell you, man, to watch them work their asses off and try and watch the grit they have and the mentality they have and what they show up with confidence, man, I step back and I'm just like, and just smile ear to ear. And if they ever won anything, I don't care. Yeah. They've learned the lessons already to be champions and winners at what they're doing. And I couldn't be more thankful. It's incredible. And the experience I have to go with my kids and see them compete and see them win, there's nothing like it.
No, that's That's cool, and the fact that they're carrying on that legacy, like you said, not just winning, but of getting out there, hard work, being good kids, you know what I mean, and earning it. And I feel like so much of that in today's environment, people want shit handed to them, and nobody's going to hand you anything worth having. If it's worth having, you got to go earn it, and you got to go get it. And them having those values that they will then share, when that day comes and they've got their own family, they keep just paying it forward, and that Feild family name just gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking the other day, and and this is one of those materialistic things. If it happens, it happens. If not, whatever. But if we could have multi-generational world champions in rodeo, my dad and my brother, and then if my son, 3 generations, and all in the bareback ride. And then my other boys want to ride bulls, but I don't know. I think that would be a neat feat to accomplish. But that's not. I have very much learned the lesson that that's probably not even a great goal. I want my kids to compete like hell, to fight. I mean, I want them to be tough, but at the end of the day, I want them to respect people and love and be there for their buddies and their friends. And if I can do that, then they're winning, and the rest, whatever happens.
Yeah. I love that. It's just making sure they get those core life lessons out of this time in their life, and they just end up being better young men because of it.
Absolutely.
Do the twin daughters, do they show any interest in the rodeo?
Oh yeah, they love to ride, but they're funny. They ride when it's convenient. They it seems like in the summer we take them jackpotting and riding and stuff, and then the winter, I don't know why we have an indoor arena, but for some reason we don't ride a lot in the winter with them. They just, I don't know. They love it, but I have a different take on rodeo, right? I mean, I love rodeo and love everything about it, but if they want a rodeo, I'll support them 100%. But if they want to do something else, there's lots of, we'll be champions in what we decide to do.
I love it. Now, real quick before we go, tell me a little bit. I know your wife has a very successful business that you've helped out with, but and I know she's been big in it. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know it's really kind of taken off.
Yeah, she's done well with it. She's always loved jewelry. She built jewelry a little bit with when she was younger, and then we had nothing but boys. So when we had our twins, the girls, all of a sudden she was like, oh, wow, and she started building them pieces of jewelry, and then had friends that wanted to have her build jewelry. And it really took off from there. Now she has about 12 employees, and she has a really cool online boutique called Goldie Lew.
That's awesome. I love it, and it's fun to see that kind of growth, especially when it's your wife, and I'm sure she's been challenged and stretched in places that she wouldn't have without this opportunity and without this business.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, what it's done for her, she grew up very wealthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, very wealthy. And when I got hurt and the oil field stuff started kind of falling off is when she really picked it up, and I couldn't be more proud of her. I mean, for somebody that came from what she came with, her work ethic is incredible. She was down at that shop and took that sucker from being multi-million a year, from very little to that in a hurry. And I just couldn't be more proud of her. I mean, the leader she is with the girls down there that work for her, and it's really incredible.
The one more business I want to hit on real quick before we wrap up is Casey was sharing his story with us about, his brain injury and the CBD company that you guys are partners in. And what I thought was really interesting about it and stuck with me from the discussion was, he's like, man, he goes, the one thing I wanted to do, he's like, I called Shad, and he's like, what would our dad think about this? Like, what would Pops think? Do you think he'd be all right with it? And I think you gave him an answer like real snippy, like, yeah, dude, he would be perfectly fine with it. Like, we need to go down this path. Look what it's doing for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that we've always tried to stay very conscientious of is representing our name the right way, right? If we put our name behind something, we've done our homework to make sure it's ethical, that's a good thing, that it's a positive thing. We've always been under the impression and under the understanding that your reputation is everything. And so if we put our name on something, it's the same thing with social media. As we start to promote things on social media, if I tell you I like it, I'm not bullshitting you. I don't care what anybody's paying
Right.
me. The influencer deal. If I'm talking about it, I'm not saying it's for you because you might not have the same taste in me. But I promise you, what I'm telling you is the truth,
Yeah.
and there's no bullshit about the way I feel about a product.
No, well, and then that's authenticity, right? I mean, that's the way you have to be. If your opinion is going to carry any value, it has to be authentic. If it's just mimed what somebody wants you to say, I mean, then you're just another talking head,
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
All right, Shad, this question's coming. It always does at the end of the episode. You have one or two folks you think would be, now that you've experienced it, you have one or two folks that you think would be good to bring on the Old Boy podcast.
Couple people come to mind is my brother-in-law,
Okay.
Ren Richard.
Love that.
What they've done with him and his brother would be fun together. Actually, Caden, he was rookie. Ren's made it to the NFR 5 or 6 times between the calf rope and the team roping. His little brother, Caden, won rookie of the year and then had an injury that really set him back with his eye. But they would be really fun. They've taken over the world as far as rope horse futurity stuff goes. I mean, I think they've sold $800,000 worth of rope horses since January.
Wow.
They've really got it going on, and they would be fun. The other one that might be fun is Betsy and Gentry that were in the plane accident with us.
Absolutely.
They've done really well. They moved back to Tennessee now, and they started a little farm. They've got some cows and stuff, and they're really great people and really cool.
No, I love both those recommendations. We will definitely have the team follow up on that because I think those would be really, really good guests, especially the couple that was in the accident with you. We've heard how it's changed your life and and the thing that I will take away from this that you said earlier was, I don't know that I would take back this experience. That is so strong, but the personal growth that you've experienced, I mean, not many would because they haven't just been dealt those cards,
Yeah, and the thing, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you're so strong," or "You're so positive," or people say a lot of those things to me. But I think that my life set me up for this somewhat. But on top of that, we all underestimate ourselves. You don't realize how tough you'd be in this situation and how positive you would try to be. These situations, they create character, and
Yes.
so. I'm just been blessed to have the right people around me through this trial that have helped kind of form me to who I am and keep me in line and keep me from, saying too much stupid shit or doing too much stupid shit. I rode a bull the other day, and my wife wigged out on me.
Hey, no offense, Shad. I think it was probably an appropriate wig out. Just
Yeah, no,
I'm not taking sides
I had
here.
it coming. I wouldn't have done it if she wasn't being such a pain about it. She's like, listen. Anyway, and he didn't buck very hard, but still, it was cool.
He wasn't a prize bull, honey. It's all right.
Yeah, he's just a little guy.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny. Well, Shad, tell everybody where they can keep up with you and anything else you want to promote. And man, I thank you so much for the time. It's been an awesome discussion, and we'll definitely be pinging you back to talk a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely, man. I've appreciated it too. It's been great for me as well. And really my social media on Instagram, Shad Feild. That's probably the best place to keep. I don't do great. I'll do really good for a minute and post a lot and talk, and then I go, a few weeks with nothing. But that's probably the best place to follow. And War Bonnet Cowboy Hats. We really do make an incredible cowboy hat. Check us out online or social media as well. Goldie Lew for my wife. If this is mostly men listening, you're going to be mad at me if you show your wives because they will end up spending some money. She's got some style and some cool shit. So be careful, Ben. But no, I appreciate the time. It was nice to meet you, and it's been really great.
Hey, Shad, it was an absolute pleasure. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this one just as much as I did. And we got the next one coming up for you. So until then, take care and be safe. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Old Boy Podcast. Please subscribe, like, set your notifications, whatever you got to do to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. Also, feel free to go back, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple, get some of the past episodes, check those out, and always feel free to check out our socials, Old Boy Podcast. Thank you so much.